What happened on July 13th, 2026, wasn't just another homecoming for a successful athlete. It was the kind of day that changes a career forever. In the span of just a few hours, Alex Eala stood in two completely different worlds. First, she faced hundreds of excited fans who had waited for hours just to catch a glimpse of her. Then, before the day was over, she walked through the doors of the Philippine presidential palace to receive one of the country's highest honors. But here's what made the day unforgettable. In both places, the same emotion followed her. Nerves. The fans were nervous to meet their hero. And Alex herself admitted she was just as nervous standing before the leaders of her own nation. That unexpected confession revealed something the world rarely gets to see. Behind the headlines, the rankings, and the historic victories is still a young woman trying to process how quickly her life has changed. The morning began at Nike Fort in Bonifacio Global City, where excitement had been building long before the doors opened. Hundreds of supporters lined up outside the store, many clutching tennis balls, posters, rackets, and phones, hoping for a photo or an autograph from the player who had suddenly become one of the biggest names in Philippine sports. The event wasn't designed as a simple meet and greet, called Play Mind Games with Alex Eala. It focused on something much deeper than trophies or highlight reels. Fans were invited to hear directly from Alex about the mental side of elite competition. The pressure, the discipline, the sacrifices, the countless hours of work that nobody ever sees. As the line stretched across the entrance, the atmosphere became almost impossible to describe. Some fans laughed to hide their excitement. Others rehearsed what they wanted to say if they actually got the chance to speak with her. One young woman near the front of the line gripped her phone tightly, trying to calm herself. Another smiled nervously before quietly admitting, "I'm so nervous." It was a simple sentence, but it perfectly captured the moment. For many of those fans, meeting Alex wasn't just about seeing a famous athlete. They were meeting someone who had made history for the Philippines on one of the biggest stages in sports. Someone who had proven that Filipino tennis could compete with the very best in the world. But to understand why this ordinary Monday suddenly became one of the biggest celebrations of the year, you have to rewind just 9 days. The world first witnessed something extraordinary on July 4th at Wimbledon. Standing across the net was defending champion Iga Swiatek, one of the most dominant players in women's tennis. Few believed Alex Eala had much of a chance. She was making only her third main draw appearance at Wimbledon, while her opponent had already conquered the tournament before. What happened next shocked the tennis world. Playing with fearless confidence, Alex produced the biggest victory of her career, defeating the defending champion in a stunning 3-set battle. It wasn't simply another upset. It instantly became one of the defining moments of the tournament. The victory sent shockwaves through international tennis. Suddenly, headlines around the world weren't asking who Alex Eala was anymore. They were talking about how far she could go. With that win, she became the first Filipino singles player in the Open era to reach the round of 16 at a Grand Slam tournament. A milestone that generations of Filipino tennis players had dreamed about but never achieved. Although her remarkable Wimbledon journey eventually ended in the 4th round after a hard-fought 3-set battle against Jasmine Paolini, the loss hardly mattered anymore. Because by then, something much bigger had already happened. She had captured the attention of the entire tennis world. More importantly, she had captured the heart of an entire nation. When Alex boarded her flight home, she wasn't simply returning after a successful tournament. She was returning as a national inspiration. The celebrations that followed reflected just how much her Wimbledon run had meant to millions of Filipinos. Everywhere she went, crowds gathered. Cameras followed every step. Interviews filled television broadcasts. Social media exploded with messages celebrating the 21-year-old who had turned a historic tournament into a national moment. Yet amid all the excitement, Alex herself hadn't changed. Behind every headline was still the same athlete who had quietly spent years working toward this dream. Long before anyone recognized her name, she was putting in endless hours on the practice court. Early mornings, grueling training sessions, long flights across continents, painful losses, recovery days, sacrifices that almost nobody witnessed. Her rise wasn't sudden. It only looked sudden to the rest of the world. In reality, every ranking point had been earned one match at a time. At the beginning of 2025, Alex was ranked around world number 140. Less than 2 years later, she had climbed inside the world's top 30, reaching a career-high ranking of world number 28. That kind of rise doesn't happen through luck. It comes from thousands of invisible hours that never appear on television. Ironically, those unseen hours became the central message of the Nike event. Instead of talking about trophies or rankings, Alex focused on resilience. She explained that success isn't built during the moments everyone watches. It's built during the lonely days when nobody is paying attention. She encouraged young athletes to embrace the difficult moments instead of fearing them. Pressure, she explained, isn't something to avoid. It's something you learn to grow through. Looking back at her younger self, Alex reflected on the dreams she once had as a little girl chasing impossible goals. She smiled as she admitted that reality had turned out to be even better than she could have imagined. For everyone listening inside the Nike store, it was more than motivation. It was proof that extraordinary achievements often begin with ordinary dreams. But while fans left inspired by her words, Alex's biggest moment of the day was still waiting. Just a few hours later, the setting would change completely. The cheering crowds would disappear. The bright lights of a retail event would be replaced by the elegance of the country's most important ceremonial hall. And standing before the president of the Philippines, Alex Eala would experience a different kind of pressure, one that even Wimbledon couldn't prepare her for. As evening fell over Manila, the atmosphere changed completely. The excitement of the Nike event gave way to something far more formal. Inside Malacañang Palace, the country's highest officials gathered to welcome home the young athlete who had just made history. For most people, receiving recognition from the president would be the biggest moment of their lives. But for Alex Eala, it was also one of the most emotional. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. personally welcomed Alex and presented her with a presidential citation honoring her historic Wimbledon campaign. Yet what stood out wasn't a discussion about rankings, statistics, or trophies. Instead, the president chose to talk about something much deeper. He praised her character. He told Alex that she had brought immense pride to the Philippines, not only because of her success on the tennis court, but because of the grace and humility with which she handled that success. It was a powerful reminder that champions are remembered not just for what they achieve, but for how they inspire others along the way. Then came the moment nobody expected. When Alex stepped up to the microphone, she smiled before making an honest confession. "I have to confess, I'm pretty nervous." The room immediately softened. Think about that for a second. Just days earlier, she had stood fearlessly on center court at Wimbledon, facing one of the greatest players in the world in front of millions of viewers. Yet speaking before her own country's leaders made her even more nervous than playing on one of tennis' biggest stages. That single moment reminded everyone why so many people admire Alex. Despite her growing fame, she remained genuine, humble, and completely authentic. But what she said next became the emotional heart of the evening. Alex explained that hearing her country's appreciation meant more than people could imagine. She said it made her feel that all the invisible work, the early mornings, exhausting training sessions, difficult travel, injuries, and countless hours away from the spotlight, had finally been seen. Not just the victories, not just the headlines, but every unseen sacrifice that made those victories possible. For athletes, those words carried incredible meaning. Fans usually celebrate the final result, but very few witness the years of discipline required to reach that moment. Alex reminded everyone that greatness is built long before the cameras arrive. She ended her remarks with a heartfelt promise that touched millions of Filipinos. Speaking from the heart, she said this achievement wasn't hers alone, it belonged to the entire nation. She proudly declared that she carries the Philippine flag with her wherever she competes and promised to continue representing her country with honor. Those words transformed the ceremony into something much bigger than an award presentation. It became a celebration of national pride. By then, the international tennis world had already recognized Alex's breakthrough. Major sports outlets across the globe highlighted her Wimbledon run as one of the tournament's biggest stories. The Philippines wasn't creating a new hero, it was honoring one the world had already begun to celebrate. What makes Alex Eala's journey so inspiring isn't simply that she won historic matches or climbed into the world's top 30. It's that she never lost the humility that helped her get there. Even as her career reaches incredible new heights, she continues to remind young dreamers that success comes from the work nobody sees. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson from this unforgettable day. One morning, she inspired hundreds of fans. That evening, she inspired an entire nation. The real question now isn't whether Alex Eala can become one of tennis' biggest stars. It's just how far this remarkable journey will go. If her story has taught us anything, it's that history is often written by those who stay humble long after the world starts cheering. And judging by everything we've seen so far, Alex Eala's greatest chapters may still be ahead.